Okay, with Andrea Ramolo, Story of the Street is a short film, played at a documentary festival. It's 30 minutes long. Fantastic movie. I love this film. I watched it twice.
Uh,
And there's a passage from one of the interview homeless people that says that I feel this is the film in a nutshell. He said, when you die, it's not when you die, like when you it's when you stop, when you give up,
yeah.
basically, is that's when you die. That's your death sentence right there. And I think that that's the summary of your film, where some homeless people have not given up, but when you give up, you're done. I guess in a sense, right?
hmm Yeah, Brent, he's the heart of our
Yeah,
story. And he basically says, life isn't over when you die, it's over when you give up. And,
yeah.
his journey was, you know, that I mean, I won't give the whole film away, but that slowly he started giving up after COVID. He was working construction. He lived here his whole life and he couldn't find work anymore. And he was on and off homeless his whole life. Like he struggled with finances and whatnot, but he was diagnosed with double throat cancer. And when I met him, he was not quite terminally ill yet, but quite sick, and he was living in a doorway on Queen Street in a sleeping bag. Like no tent, no sheltered, 65-year-old man in a sleeping bag. Um, and yeah, that was his philosophy. And I think that it rings true for a lot of these characters that donated, their time and their opinions to this film.
There's a lot to tackle with this film, but this is a subject that I care deeply about, and if I had money, if I was a philanthropist, like basically, this is where I put my money. And you see that politicians don't really. This is a macro statement, but politicians don't really care about the homeless because they don't vote. So basically, if homeless people voted, then maybe they would end up caring about them. That's my philosophy. And then
Yeah.
people just kind of use them up and don't really, like you said I think you said in your bio, it's like in your director statement, it's like you just would walk by, and we all do. We're all guilty of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, we treat them as voiceless.
Yeah.
And I think the purpose of this film was, to or provide a space where some of their voices can be heard because nobody asks for their opinion. They're the ones that are living on the streets. Why are they living on the streets? Do we know the answers to that? I mean, people gather statistics and we have, and politicians
Yeah.
pretend to do their due diligence, but it's like, it's like a doctor that works with women's body parts or pregnancy, but doesn't ask women for their experience on the matter, right? This is a very particular case. People are unhoused for a variety of different reasons. And I mean, from anywhere to mental illness, addiction, unaffordable housing, systemized racism,
Mhm.
sexism, um, trans and homophobia. I mean, like the list is endless and it's such a complex issue that there's not one answer. But if you survey the people that are actually living on the street, perhaps we can come up with solutions that actually work and not just like, I mean, what are the solutions that our government is coming up with? I really can't see any.
Well, that's my
Shelters are
whole point. I don't think they have to do the lip service. They pretend that they care, but I don't think they care, right?
Yeah, and then you have all the NIMBYs, of course, that it's like, and I've heard these comments even from I'm a teacher at a high school during the day this year particularly, and I even hear comments from my students that I think might be trickling down to their parents. There's a youth shelter opening across the street from us, right? And so
Yeah,
everybody's selling their houses and
yeah.
worried about whether or not their kids are safe now. And it's like I wrote this whole rant online, fighting back to some of these businesses that are putting up this petition, sign this petition to not open these youth shelter. I mean, some of these children that I teach, they are lucky enough to have loving parents, a roof over their head, food to eat, a stable environment, right? And some of these kids, I mean, I met a lot of people on the street that were unhoused since they were teenagers. And I've
Mhm.
met some in my day that actually lived in the apartment underneath me. And, you know, you're lucky if you have that love, but not everybody does. And so, of course, there should be shelters that offer support, that offer a place where they don't have to sleep out in the cold or out in the heat, right? And out in danger. I mean, the streets are dangerous. But sometimes the streets are the choice for people who have been on and off, um, and
Yeah.
living unhoused and housed and precariously housed and all of that. Sometimes they are the choice because our system is so broken and because the shelter systems are a nightmare for a lot of these people and unsafe, right?
Yeah, well, there's like theft and there's like violence and everything like that, right? So, I used to work in the well, I still do, I guess, but I used to work in the mainstream film industry, and so we used to have to go to different areas in downtown Toronto, and I talked to a lot of homeless people, and I remember a homeless guy saying to me, it was kind of poetic what he said. He was like, "I do drugs, but I don't remember if I did drugs and that's what got me on the street, or I got on the street and then I started doing drugs."
Yeah.
And maybe that's a line that he said, but it kind of resonated with me. Where like, yeah, like it's like if you're on the streets, you're just like you said that you give up, or you're just gonna do what you're gonna do, right?
Well, and you're going to self-medicate. And
Yeah,
honestly, I don't blame a lot of the people that are using substances to ease their pain because it feels for me, I'm looking at them, I hear some of their stories, not everything made it into the film, but there are years and years of abuse and rape and violence and familial major familial issues and major unaddressed mental health concerns,
yeah,
right? That, some of these people that didn't make the film in the end, but that I have their interviews and I will cherish them and they're on my hard drive and they were a part of this whole process of bringing this film to light. One of them developed major schizophrenia and he has his university degree. He worked his whole life. It's like and so now he's on the street and he has these episodes, and his single mother couldn't really care for him. Like she kind of lost control of that. And I don't, again, that's a tough situation. And if you don't have an outside network, like I come from an Italian family where it's like, and not all Italian families are like this, but culturally speaking, we take care of one another, even
yeah,
if we fight to the death and we yell across the table.
yeah.
There's this essence of community, and you don't let people go astray. You don't let people starve alone. So right, so we lived in houses with multiple families at times, and we carry that. I think that sort of system. Whereas here in this big lonely city, especially since the pandemic, I feel isolated. I mean, I live alone now and I feel that isolation. I struggled with my own mental health ups and downs during the pandemic. I could only imagine somebody who has bipolar disease or they're schizophrenic and they've been abused and this and that, and they have no network and no access or resources to seek therapy, to seek assistance, to seek help, like love,
Yeah.
right? And so they're left alone. And what happens? Society turns a blind eye, shuns them, treats them like they're these despicable human beings, or not even like they're human beings. And this is where the problem lies. It's like they're dehumanized. And I think like I wanted to create this project where like people can value their humanity and see their humanity and see them as, they could be your brother, your mother, your sister. Like they could be any one of us. And I think that people don't think about that when they're passing by somebody who's stinky and crouched over on the street. That person needs love too. That person needs their bare necessities met. Why not, right?
And that's the heart of your film. It's talking about the emotional impacts, the because like you said, people, especially politicians, can use stats about mental illness and about drug addiction, etc. But this is all about loneliness, and it's all about love, and it's about lack of support. And like you said, you had these family, like you had this family that you grew up in. You're very lucky to have that family, that no matter what happens to you, your family, there's going to be a family member to take care of you. But some people don't have that. Parents die early, they don't have, or the parents are abusive, obviously, and like, and then they have to leave their family, and they're alone, right?
Yep.
And then it's
And there's
hard to
so much
trust people.
generational trauma. Like a
Yeah,
lot of my characters and that made it to the film, they're indigenous, and they, spoke to me about, I mean, who was taken away from their mother by Children's Aid and placed in this foster home and that foster home, and basically ripped apart from their siblings. I mean, this has like repercussions forever, and it trickles down through the bloodline. I really do believe that, and it's like we people carry that weight, and if there's no outlet and no way that they can heal from that in a healthy manner, then what we're just We're allowing them to just be tossed on the street and they're forgotten about. And they're there, and we can't push them out of town. We can't pretend that they don't exist. What we can do that we haven't really tried as a city, I mean, this can start with us, right? Like we could do this as community members, but it should be instigated from the top in that, like, why don't we start treating ourselves or each other like family, like brothers and sisters? And I don't mean to sound religious. It's not a religious
Yeah.
ideology. It's like, what happened to decency, like human decency and kindness? And I feel like we've really something has shifted in the last 5, 6 years.
Really? I don't think it's. I don't. Maybe I'm a cynic. I don't think it's ever been there. I just think it's the human condition. We're just
Yeah,
survivors, and we don't care about anybody except our. I mean, general, but everybody in our orbit, right? So you
yeah,
talk about the people with your high school students with the parents, or the people don't want the homeless shelter to be beside their home because it's going to devalue their home. Everybody's out for themselves, right? So
yeah, yeah. It's a very every human for themselves world. I mean, where we live anyway. And so, and you know what? It's interesting. I tour with this Italian band. I'm also a musician beyond being a filmmaker, and that this is what sparked this whole film for me. The guys who are now like my brothers, they were some of the stars in my first feature documentary that I released. It premiered in Toronto in 2023, and they came that summer for the premiere, for the world premiere, and also we did some touring. And that summer, Dufferin Grove Park, where I used to live off of, very, very close to my heart, that park right across from the Dufferin Mall, was like cluttered with tents. Like I don't even remember how many there were, but it was the most I've ever seen there. And they had never seen anything like it. Like from coming from southern Italy, these small town boys are like, how do you let people live like this?
yeah,
And when they put it that way, and actually, because it was breaking my heart, right? Many people feel for other human beings, but I felt inactive or numb, or I didn't really know, like, okay, what could I do about it? What could we do about it? But when they put it that way and they said, hey, it's actually in your hands. You're allowing this to happen. I was like, okay, I was trying to think of like what I could do. So, slowly this project began as outreach, right? So I was first, I'll admit I was terrified. And I went out on the streets and I packed sandwiches and I worked with many little organizations or individual women who have been volunteering for 20, 30 years. And I joined different groups, or I would go on my own and I would just pack meals. I would pack gym bags. I got a big donation. I would pack warm clothes and I would just go out and I would talk to people, you know, meet them, like get to know these people. And the film process was very slow because I really wanted to know who they were. And I wanted to gain trust, like in a real way, not just like, hey, I want to do this film and I want to utilize your opinions. Like I wanted them to feel safe with me. And now I see a lot of them and I hope that some of them can come to one of the premieres because it would be really great that they see that their voice matters and that people are actually hearing them instead of passing by them in their signs, their hunger signs, or their Tim Hortons cup that when they're sitting out on the corner.
yeah,
So yeah, it was a heavy year and a half to like it's been a heavy year and a half, and I had to, there was a point where I was like, I could shoot this for you. I know I could shoot this for
yeah.
years, right? It's not this issue consistently repeats itself over and over again. But I think that it's pertinent and it matters now to say something about it. And I hope more people say something about it in their own way, whether it's through song or whatnot.
So because you shot it on your phone, right?
I
The whole
shot
thing
it.
on your
Yep. I
phone.
shot it ProRes log on my phone. I built a little rig myself. I didn't feel like when I was reaching out to some film people and on the various groups online that discuss production
Yeah,
or whatnot,
sure. Yeah,
I got a lot of like pushback because I was sort of grappling with, okay, I've never shot an entire film on my own. I'm either like I produce, write, and direct on my own, but I'm not a
you
cinematographer,
got a
right?
team, yeah, with you. Yeah,
Right? Yeah,
yeah,
I'm always I'm I have somebody on visuals and they know what they're doing. And I don't know how to work a professional film camera or digital film camera. So um, everyone was like, don't do it on your own. You need proper sound. You're going to need great quality
Yeah.
image if you want to tell
Yeah.
the story. And I was like, you know what? I said that their safety and their comfortability with me and my presence matters more to me than how beautiful this is going to look, because that's not the point. And the message
Yeah.
is the message. And so
But
one of my
I also want to say that it looks great and it's
oh, thank you.
trial and error too, right? Like I'm sure the first 2 weeks you were out there, the footage is a lot better 6 months later. Let's just put
Oh
that.
God, the first 2 weeks I was out there, cables, because I had to be plugged into my portable hard drive
Yeah.
the whole time, and I had my lavaliers and all, like to do everything and then remember to do everything. So sometimes I miss the lavalier sync to my phone.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a cable dangling in front of my
Yeah.
iPhone and we couldn't use that footage. Um, but the footage was real, and I felt I couldn't fathom having other people with me, because I was growing bonds with these people, and I don't believe that having somebody holding up a boom and another person on a big
Yeah.
rig, or even a handheld, I don't think that that would have transpired in the same way.
Were you? I want to ask you about the length, but I want to ask this question first about like, were you worried about exploiting? Like, it's like that fine line of exploiting these your subjects, right? And like, in making sure that they're getting the rights to like an honest story of who they are, right? Instead of saying, "Hey, how you doing, homeless person," and just putting a camera in front of them, right? How did you like? I'm curious. How did you approach them and say, "I'm doing this documentary"? How was the process of the filming them?
Yeah, I mean, there was a variety of methods, but the main one was that, let's say I knew someone, because I do know a few people that, like personally, that were unhoused, let's say.
Okay.
And let's say they were in the interview. Um, they would then say, "Hey, look, a friend of mine is doing a documentary on the homeless crisis. She's willing to speak to anyone who wants to share their story." And I also compensated all of the houseless people that were in the film. So they received a payment. They all signed waivers,
Oh,
like,
wow. Okay.
yeah, and they of course, did not have to answer any questions that they did not want to. But I really did find that most of them just, like, I mean, Terry's one of my favorite. Terry and John. I mean, they're all my favorites. Like, I deeply love these people now, because and watching their face in the edit, and for the last like year and a half, 2 years, it's almost like they've become family. So I see a lot of them still in the corner. I run into them downtown. Um, they're still begging for change at the corner or whatnot. But Terry's looking really good. And yeah, they gave me the truth. They shared their story. Terry suffered childhood sexual abuse, and I didn't ask him anything to do with his childhood. I asked him, what would you say is one of it is a reason why you ended up here? Like, if you had to narrow it down, and he says,
Mhm.
"Well, I had a horrible childhood. Like, who the hell likes being sexually abused when they're a kid?" And like he went there, and I let them know that if they shared something afterwards that they regretted, or that they didn't want to be shared publicly, then they could let me know. But nobody did. And yeah, it's just, and more voices were interviewed, and I wish I could have shared them all. The editor, Edwin Jansen, who's a really great guy, um, he actually took this project on as a passion project. He does CBC doc series all the time. He's a working editor, and he saw a post of mine, and he's like, I really care about this issue, and I want to be on board.
That's
So that
amazing.
was,
All right, so let's talk about that then. So it's 30 minutes long, which is an interesting time for a documentary. Were
yeah,
you ever considering making it a feature film?
absolutely. So intentionally, or initially, it was supposed to be a feature.
Okay.
And then, you know, winter passed, summer passed, winter came again. And Edwin was sitting with the footage, and he even told me, he's like, in order to find a through line, right? Because we didn't want it just to be a collage of people's experiences,
Yeah,
right?
you
I
needed a
mean,
narrative. Yeah,
yeah, as a
yeah,
storyteller, you want the heart and soul, and that's Brent. And Brent's character, I think, sort of encapsulates experiences from all the different characters, but we follow him through a journey a little bit longer, you know? And I wish I had started that journey earlier with Brent. And of course, it ended a bit too, it ended too soon.
hmm
But Yeah, I mean, Brent was very important in my life. Like I visited, like there were many times when I would have visits with Brent that my camera, like I did not shoot him. I wasn't recording, like Brent, um, I was with Ryan of Tiny Tiny Homes. I was one of the people that would sort of go and be there with him in his last few months of his life. So yeah, it was really hard when he passed away.
yeah, 100%. And it's sort of because I was curious because it's almost like it could be a series in a sense because you mentioned that your friends, your Italian friends, or your collaborators, but there are countries like Japan, for example, that I've never been there, but I just talked to some funny. I just talked to someone today who loves Japan, and they say there's no homeless people there, and according to the stats I read, they kind of figured it out, and
Yeah, and I'd love to know about that. And that would be an
it's like a
incredible
sequel.
doc series
Yeah,
for CBC or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, let's explore what other places are doing that have figured something out that's working
Because
for them.
that's how you solve it, right? Like if
Yeah.
someone else has figured it out, like it's almost the same. Like I know we have we actually it's a smaller country too. It's the same amount
Yeah.
of people, but there's less land. So if you
Mhm.
figured by that proxy, it'd be easier in Canada
Yeah.
to
Well, I mean, there are creative solutions happening, except the government is not condoning them, right? Like Ryan, who's
yeah.
featured in the documentary of Tiny Tiny Homes. I mean, I just saw his post the
It's in
other
your
day.
it's in your documentary. It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan is building these beautiful, sustainable, affordable, tiny, tiny homes. He's giving them away. He's doing it based on a fundraiser, right?
Yeah,
He's paying out of his own pocket. And Ryan has struggled, on and off the streets as well. So he
yeah,
knows, and he comes from a place of understanding and compassion. And he was just like, look, I know how to work with my hands. I'm going to do this for people. And Khalil was another man during the pandemic who was making these sort of wooden homes, and
yeah,
sadly they shut him down too. And they made Ryan move his little village that he was building in St. James Park. And Ryan is, I don't know where exactly he is, but he's north of the city right now, and he's made this little village. And I just saw his post yesterday. I mean, like, why isn't the government getting behind that? Why is there no support for that? They're just spending billions and billions of dollars making these spas and these golf courses and
yeah,
these high rises that nobody can afford to live in. And it's like, this will cost you $10,000 a house.
yeah,
Like, what are your priorities? And then, and this, I mean, I don't know who's going to see this film, but in my dream, somebody who has some sort of clout, some sort of pull in the political world, that can, at least plant a seed in the right direction for something like this. I hope that they see the doc, because
yeah.
there's enough information, personal sharing there, that hopefully would open somebody's eyes up, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I'm from Niagara Falls originally, and there's like no homeless people. And when I grew up, now there's homeless people in Niagara
Yeah.
Falls. It's a
Yeah.
pretty rampant thing, and it's angering the voters, the angering people. So like I think people want to solve this problem, but it takes money. I actually interviewed someone made a documentary about the LA homelessness last year,
Mm,
and it was more about the thesis about how they have the money, but they just spend it so foolishly, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And also I think it's a mentality shift, like we were talking about. Like, this is an isolating city, right? And I feel it too, as a person who likes to gather in community and build community and stuff. It's like, we don't have in the summer we might, because the weather's nice, but think about our cold months, right? You don't see people gathering in town squares like you do in other countries, going for walks and getting, an ice cream after dinner and the people talking. Like it's really everyone's just like this and we're on our phones. And so, I mean, it's an easier climate to ignore
Sure.
issues that you're afraid to address, that you don't know how to address, or you're so wrapped up in your own life that why would you stress yourself out by even, worrying about that for a second longer than you have to because you can't do
That's
anything.
another film too you just described that you can make about, right? But
Oh yeah, for
is
sure.
it the culture, like Canadian culture? Because there's so much diversity. You ever go to like Wellesley, like we were talking about Toronto before the podcast, but Wellesley in like Sherbourne,
Oh yeah.
those high rises, those white high rises.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's more like languages spoken in that area than in the world, right?
Hmm.
And there's so much anxiety there. There's so much kind of conflict there because everybody's in different religions and different cultures, different ideologies, right? And it's like it's a good and bad, right? Having a multicultural city, but it's like, but then there's got to be that connection, that core, right?
Yeah, and that's
Besides,
what we're
besides
missing.
our rooting sports team, right? Like, there's got to be something else, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
true. Besides
yeah.
besides the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays, yeah.
The Blue Jays, yeah. But you saw the city connect when the Blue Jays were in the
Yeah,
World
it was
Series,
a, it
right?
was a moment and it felt interesting, it felt like wow, that this is possible, but how can we do that when it's not game? How
That's
can
what I
we
mean.
do
Yeah,
that
that's
when it's
yeah,
like life and death, like it's literally
yeah,
survival, right?
yeah,
So, I don't know, I don't think it's that in my head. I mean, maybe I'm like a simpleton and you know, an artist. So I think that we can always change the world by shining a light or holding up a mirror. But I really do believe it's more simple than we think it is. And it's
yeah.
just the allotment of funds. Like who can we
And the
and
person in
even how?
charge.
Yeah.
If you look at the Japanese homelessness, it's like the smart person in charge who like kind of like knows what they're doing, but they're not doing it for the money, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
because they're not going to get paid that well, right? So then but they got to have that kind of mentality where they can see 20 things at once, right?
Mhm.
And usually
Well,
those
and then
people
there's so
don't
many
know.
billionaires in the world. Imagine each of them gave $1 million to this cause. I mean, we could literally eradicate at least homelessness in our city. Absolutely.
Oh,
But
yeah, well, that's the problem, right?
yeah,
That's the core issue is that the rich are too rich, the poor are too poor, right? Like,
and
and
the gap is just
yeah,
growing and growing. I mean, I don't remember. There are a few montages in the film. I don't know if you noticed those musical montages, and
yeah.
those are my favorite parts because they really paint a picture of like downtown Toronto at any given day, at any given time,
You
right?
got the essence of the city for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like so many sleeping bags and
I know.
shopping carts and like people there's this wild image in the dead of winter of a man on a corner. He's far away, so I don't know if you caught it, but you can just see his feet. He's lying on the cold pavement and you can see the heat coming up from the vent and he's just on his back and it's a snow day and it's like wow, like that's not okay. It can't be okay. So we have to do something about it. And yeah, part of the outreach, like there are some great groups like Ripple Collective, who I thank in my credits. They were one of the groups that I worked with at the Dufferin Grove Park. And every
Mm.
Monday they started using the kitchen there and they started cooking meals for everyone. So I joined them. And one day we all took a meal day. So I did like a big Italian feast with pasta and like veal parmesan and they got to eat like and there's dignity and sharing of food. Like it was really cool. And of course, they shut that park down and they had to evict all of the people living there. So I'm not really sure where all of those people went, but it was, they just throw them out of the parks. And I get it. People want their parks so that their kids can play, but these people have nowhere else
Yeah,
to go. So why not build a community on grass that's safe for them too? Because you know what? Some of these people in their tents, they were telling me like one woman had her tent slashed and robbed 3 times in the matter of a couple of weeks, right? People are looking
yeah,
for drug money. People are losing their minds or high or whatnot. They're survival. So it's like super unsafe, especially for women out there and trans people. So yeah, just the stories
100%. Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
exposed to,
Well, that's another thing. That's another subject or another. another documentary subject is that like in the late 90s, what New York City did is that they had a huge problem, right, with homelessness, and they just kind of pushed them all out, and they made
Yeah.
Manhattan like rich and like safe. But then those they went somewhere, right? Like you're describing the parks. It's like, well, they just didn't disappear. They ended up going in a different place,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
now at
like,
Barry, I mean, Barry, I don't know if you've seen on the news headlines, but you know, I don't remember when I used to go through Barry as a kid because we used to go up that way a lot. I don't remember seeing houseless
yeah,
people. And now it's like there are huge street communities,
yeah,
like same thing. And I mean, Vancouver is a whole other story. You know, I did a lot of research and I was watching a lot of different just street documentaries. There was this really incredible brave one that was do it yourself that a man lived on the street for a year. I don't know if you've ever watched that one. I forget the title of it now, but it was done way back, like maybe about 15, 20 years ago. And, you know, did everything from like he was living street life and he went to an injection site and he tried heroin. This man, and then he had to cut the filming 3 days early because he sort of lost his center. But um, he had a
yeah,
camera right here and he filmed everything. I mean, that's probably not legal anymore. Maybe it wasn't back then, but you really
yeah,
see that like these people, they're seeking community out there and they find their friends. Their street people are their friends, and they
yeah.
deserve to have that because nobody else is paying attention to them. And of course, they want to relate to others, and these are the people they relate to, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're on to something, obviously, right? So, and I know, like, it seems like you're like, you kind of like finished the, like, you didn't like you finished the film, or almost like because you kind of had to, but it seems like you wanted, there's a lot more in there's a lot more to it. Like, even like the metaphor with the hard drive, you got all these interviews and they're there. But I
Yeah, I
think
mean, honestly, I would do a series on this if
that's
if
what I mean. Yeah. I think that
BBC
you're,
or
yeah,
somebody got behind it.
yeah,
I would happily. I mean, it's yeah, it's heavy work, and I would put the right team together that was a gentle team that I could, make sure that I could still maintain that intimacy. Um, but I definitely made the film as a conversation piece because I wanted to spark conversations. I want people to start talking about it. And you and I, we make films, we're artists. We often get political. We often talk about things that we see out in the world. Not everybody does, and we take that for granted, I think, sometimes. And it's a matter of, hey, okay, this makes you feel a certain way, or the stories that some of these characters shared made you feel uncomfortable. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Like, hey, this is their life that they've lived. Do you maybe understand the through line now? Could you possibly fathom how they ended up there and they're not, where you are, where your kids are? Like,
yeah.
do you have that compassion and that ability to walk in other people's
Yeah.
shoes?
I'm just
And
shooting for the like a low percentage. If 20% of the people
yeah,
thought that way, that's a good start.
it is a good start.
I don't think that everybody will be able to think that way, but
And I agree. But
that's their own mental illness. That's another subject, right?
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. And you know what? That's fine. 20%,
that's
like,
what I mean. It
but
just
the
you get,
right
yeah,
people, the ones who make the decisions, the ones who get to decide where our tax money goes.
yeah. Yeah. If
How do
homeless
we win
people
those people over? That's
if
the thing.
homeless people voted and they all lined up and voted, and then it's in a district, they would care. The
Yeah.
politician would care.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? And it's
But
like
they
that's the
make it
problem.
impossible. A lot of these people don't have their IDs
Of course,
or
that's what
they're transient, right? So it's
they
a
don't
whole,
want them to vote. That's the whole
yeah.
point,
The
right? Yeah,
bureaucracy around like
yeah,
how to actually get out and vote is like it's complicated even for me. And
yeah. I
I,
know.
you
That's
know,
and we live in a so-called democracy. Well, we hire people to run the government, right? So
well, we're
we
hiring
don't vote
we're
on
hiring the
everything.
wrong people, Matthew.
No,
Okay.
of course. But what I'm saying is that some countries like that you vote on everything, right?
Yeah.
If it was something that laws being passed, that the city everybody votes it. They do it we don't do that. We hire people to make decisions for us, right? So
Yeah.
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 So that's what I mean. There's a lot to tackle with your film. There's so much, but you got to the micro. You tell these little individual stories, which I think that's what touches people the most when they get the individual kind of emotional story, the arc, and the unfortunate things that happen in this documentary with the people with your subjects. So
Yeah.
congratulations on the film. Anything I can
Thank
do to
you.
help, I think it's fantastic. And let's talk again. Hopefully, it gets made and gets you get a series and you get more and more that happens with it. It seems like you're a busy person. You're doing a lot of things.
Yes. My hands in a lot of pots.
Yeah,
That's why I'm so tired. But it's okay. It's worth it. It's worth it. And I love making films and I love telling stories and and I think this one's an important story to tell.
100%. All right, let's talk again soon. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. Enjoy